Hello, and welcome to the Waldenstrom's Macroglobulinemia Patient Perspective video series. I am Sharon Piotrowski, and I will be your host. The information you will hear in this video series is from the perspective of WM patients and/or their caregivers. The goal is to share their unique perspectives, which may help someone else who has been diagnosed with this rare cancer. Please remember the information provided by the participants in this series is reflective of their unique journey. It should not replace the advice you are getting from your own doctor. This week, we'll be hearing from 5 WM patients discussing how they found out they had WM. Thank you to all who are participating for sharing your journeys. Let's get started. Thank you for joining me today for the Waldenstrom's Macroglobulinemia Patient's Perspective video series. I'm your host, Sharon Piotrowski. The topic this week is how one found out that they had WM. My guest today is Adam, and he's going to share his journey to finding out he has this rare cancer. Adam, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Sharon, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and for the opportunity to share a bit of my story.
Well, I know we're talking about cancer, but I'm really glad that you're here with us today, too. Now, can you tell us when was the year you were diagnosed, month and year you were diagnosed?
Sure. I found out on February 3rd of 2020. I was 49 years old, just about 5 months short of my 50th birthday.
Wow, must have been a shock.
Yeah, it was pretty shocking. It was pretty shocking. Yes, it was.
Let's step back a little bit. When was the year and month that you started realizing something was wrong?
Wow, that's an interesting question. I thought about this many times through this journey. I think it was probably about maybe 2016 or 2017 where I just got this unexplained fatigue that I couldn't really put my finger on. I just thought, maybe it was because of a long work day. The commute home, or I chalked it up to any number of things. But the last thing I thought was that, I had cancer. So it's probably about 3 years before I found out.
Okay, that's what I was going to say, about 3 or 4 years before. So just fatigue, that was about it.
Yes,
What did you do next? Like, you have this fatigue, so did you go to the doctor?
Yeah. Well, I've always been one to, do my regular physicals. So in the course of just my regular yearly physicals, well, for 2 of those years, I had a slightly elevated white blood count, but nothing that raised a lot of concern with my doctor. But on that 3rd year, it was extremely elevated, and at that point, that's when I was referred to an oncologist.
Okay, so your doctor's saying you got to go see an oncologist. Was cancer in your head, or did you just?
It's still, when she said oncologist, I sort of said, cancer, nah. But like I said, I still didn't think that would be the diagnosis. I thought I'd go to the oncologist. They'd say, hey, you're fine, and that would be it. But didn't turn out to be the case.
Adam, so you said you were diagnosed in 2020.
Yes.
When did you go to that oncologist? How long, was that?
January of 2020 was when I went to the oncologist and went through battery of tests, every blood test that they could be done. I probably got. Ended up having a bone marrow biopsy and various CT scans to confirm that diagnosis.
Wow. So you're sitting at the doctor's office and they say you have this rare cancer. How did you feel?
Yeah, well, actually, after in that string of events, so to speak, the CT scan was the last thing, and I remember a few days after that, I got a call from the doctor's office, and they asked me to come in, and it's still I still didn't think that they were going to tell me I had cancer. I remember being in the car driving. I was on the phone with my wife, and I told her, I don't know what they're going to tell me, but they're not going to tell me that I have cancer. So I was still, like, I guess, going into a state of denial before they told me anything.
Wow.
So yeah, I wasn't afraid because I just refused to believe that that's what I was going to be told.
Now,
So
looking back, before you had the CT and the bone marrow and you went to the oncologist, now looking back, besides the fatigue, did you see any, do you now remember any other symptoms?
yeah,
Mhm.
it's funny you should ask that. Every now and then, I can recall instances every now and then of maybe a swollen lymph node,
Mm.
um, pain in the spleen area. That I had no idea what it was, but it was an intermittent sort of thing. There was nothing that was ongoing. But as I think back over the 2 or 3 years prior to the diagnosis, I do remember little pains here and there outside of just having fatigue. So yes, absolutely.
You mentioned about the CT scan. Did anything, so bone marrow, did you have the CT before the bone marrow, and then the CT?
Uh, it was the CT was after the bone marrow.
So in the CT, did they see any of your lymph nodes enlarged or spleen enlarged or anything like that?
The spleen was slightly enlarged, but there was no lymphodectomy at that. No enlarged lymph nodes at that time. But the spleen, my spleen was slightly enlarged, but nothing was going on with the lymph nodes at that time.
I gather your IgM was tested during all that lovely blood work. What was
Yeah,
it, by the way?
yeah.
At diagnosis.
It was about 4,500. Um, but I wasn't having any other symptoms at that point
Mhm.
other than extreme fatigue. So I went into the watch and wait phase for a few months. I didn't get treatment at the onset.
How long after your diagnosis, and we're not going to get into much about treatment, but how long
Okay.
after your diagnosis did you start treating?
Whew, by September of 2020, the IgM had shot up to about 6,500, and I started treatment immediately.
Did you have any of the bleeding issues that come with higher IgM or anything like that? They
No,
just,
no.
I gather they just wanted to treat you to help.
Yeah, the fatigue just got a lot worse,
Oh.
and it was to the point where I could barely walk up the stairs in my house without tiring myself out.
Were you anemic also? Did that come up at all during your blood work and at that time?
Slightly, yes,
Okay. Wow.
yes.
So you have this diagnosis that you finally have to say out loud. Did you
Yeah.
tell your family right away?
That same day, I called my wife as I was walking out of the doctor's office, and we were, I won't say we know obviously we knew it was a possibility, but um, so I guess we were in a state of shock, but we kind of got down to the work of it. We immediately we said we're gonna get in this fight, whatever it takes, and I give a lot of credit to that to my wife. She was a 30-year veteran of the Air Force, so that is her mindset to get going. So we kind of just rallied, started rallying right then.
Did you share this with friends or colleagues?
Yeah, I had to call my mom and my sister. Of course, they were a little bit upset when they heard, but I had to reassure them that I was going to be fine. Um, I let a couple of work colleagues know, just in case I had to. There came an instance where I had to miss some work. But I told very few people because I didn't really want to unnecessarily alarm the people in my life. So I told a few people, but not many at the very beginning.
And how did you come on to the IWMF website finding that? And did you find it was useful? How soon
Well,
after diagnosis?
actually, my oncologist here in Dallas told me about it.
Oh, that,
Yeah, he told me about it, and and I went on there that day. Well, within a couple days, maybe, and yeah, I can absolutely say that I got nothing but love and support.
mhm.
Nothing but love and support. And then I was able to join from that point, able to join a couple of support groups, and having that has been invaluable. So that's kind of how I got engaged in our community.
It's a wonderful community, that's for
Yes, it is.
sure.
It
How
is.
are
It
you
is.
feeling today?
Oh wow, I'm great. I'm about 18 months out of my last treatment, and I feel better than I have probably in 4 or 5 years, actually.
Isn't it
So
amazing?
yes, yes. So I'm back to well, I actually never stopped, but I'm doing the things that I love to do. My wife and I we love to camp. We love to play golf. We we'll run a 5K here and there. So I'm back to doing all of those things, that I was doing in earnest before I started feeling the fatigue. And yeah, I'm fully aware that I have cancer, but I don't live my day-to-day life as if I have cancer, if that makes any sense.
It doesn't actually. I have two more questions, but you just prompted me a question about, even though you were fatigued, then you find this diagnosis, did you still, said you were active. Were you still active, but you're pushing through it, I guess. And then now you're back to being normal and feeling good. So did you have that, that drive to still, I got cancer, but I'm still going to do?
Yeah. I even ran maybe 2 or 3 5Ks while I was going through treatment. So, well, I won't say ran. I more walked them,
but did it though.
But I did them. Yeah, but I did them. Yeah.
Well, my last question to you is, what is your advice to other people that find out that they have this cancer now, looking in retrospect, back? What advice would you give them?
Oh, that's a great question, and one that I'm really glad you asked me. And to anyone that is newly diagnosed, and even to those of us that are in the midst of this fight, I would say, I know that finding out you have cancer can be frightening and overwhelming, as it was for me. But I want you to realize that finding out you have Waldenstrom's is not by any means an end. It's a beginning. It's a chance to live life in a renewed fashion and not to take anything for granted. I enjoy my family and friends more than I ever have. I enjoy my hobbies more than I ever have, and I just live and enjoy my life. And if there's something that I want to do, I go do it. Now, that's not to say that everything is great. Some days I absolutely feel better than others. But if there's a day that I don't feel that great, then I just take a seat and relax. I listen to my body. So that's one thing that I would advise. Definitely listen to your body. Rally your support team, family, friends. If it's not them, then go to IWMF.com and get engaged in your local groups. Again, those are invaluable tools. Don't stop living. Again, it's not an end. It is proven to be a beginning for me. And I think that if you do those things, you'll get to the point where you are living with this disease, but not letting it encompass or take over every moment of your day. So that's what I would say to anyone that finds out they have what we have.
Adam, wow, that was well said. You actually said something and it went right on my head, but I'm going, this should be the motto. You should live life with a renewed, what was the last part?
In a renewed fashion, just in a renewed manner.
Fashion. I think that should be a motto, because that's perfect. That is so true. Take life for what it is today.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you so much for sharing your story. I think a lot of people will find this helpful.
No, I'm very glad to help, and I thank you so much for asking me to do this. And I'm here for whatever as a community that we need.
Oh, that's great. Well, hold on there 1 second. On behalf of Adam, the IWMF, and myself, we want to thank you for watching this video today. If you'd like to join us on future topics, please email me at wmpatientperspectivevideoseries@gmail.com. Also, we'd love your feedback, so please leave a comment in the comment section below the video. Please also watch all the videos this week on this topic, as each person's journey to WM is unique. Thank you again for everybody watching today, and we'll see you on the next series topic.